In a previous video, I talked about the destruction of King's Landing as it pertains to the books. And I went over 2 characters readers believe might be responsible for that mad act, Jon Connington and Cersei Lannister. My conclusion was that I don't think they'll be the ones to do it. I still firmly believe Daenerys Targaryen will destroy King's Landing. But for the sake of the argument, I forgot to cover one other option. What if no one destroys King's Landing? Because if it hasn't happened in the books, because we don't have the last 2 books yet, and Martin has neither confirmed nor denied this was his idea, Martin was not part of the final seasons. He said he was off writing The Winds of Winter and he would do nothing else but that.
So that was a fucking lie.
So the destruction of King's Landing could have come from the minds of Dan and David, who some people call Dumber and Dumber. But if that's the case, if that's a possibility, why are we trying to place the destruction of King's Landing onto other characters? Why don't we just dismiss it outright? I'll tell you why. Copium. This is weapons-grade copium. But first, the business. Please consider supporting this channel on Patreon or becoming a channel member. Hi, I'm White Lady.
Welcome to my Caucasian home. Come inside.
For as little as $1 a month, turn on the sad music. For as little as $1 a month, you can support a sad, lonely Pendragon. He was raised in the inner city. He didn't learn how to read until he was 13, and some might say he still doesn't know how. But with your support, he'll get the help that he needs. And what you'll get is early access to videos, exclusive content, and sneak peeks, as well as feet pics. No, you're not getting no. No. Do I look like Allison Hightower? You'll get videos like this and other perks. If you don't want to give me $1 or more a month, that's perfectly fine. All I ask is that you like the video and leave a comment. That really helps out with the growth of the channel. And also, do me a favor and subscribe. With that being said, let's get into it. So in my previous video, I talked about Cersei Lannister and Jon Connington and how it's been theorized one of them will be responsible for destroying King's Landing. To summarize the videos very briefly, I don't think Cersei is going to do it because Cersei craves power and power is in King's Landing. She's already been through so much shit and she hasn't left King's Landing yet. I know she can't really leave the city now because of her upcoming trial, but let's go back to book 1. Ned confronted Cersei in the castle's Godswood and said, I put 2 and 2 together and what I got is, you're a liar. Your kids are bastards, you've been fucking and sucking your brother, you're nasty, and you need to leave. Robert will kill you and he'll probably kill each of your bastard kids, so get on the nearest boat and go into exile. Rather than do that, knowing that she was caught out there, Cersei stayed. Even Ned was like, why is she still here? Because she was on the cusp of victory. Robert was on his deathbed, Joffrey was 1 step away from ascending the Iron Throne, which meant Cersei was 1 step away from being Queen Regent. She decided to take her chances and stay, a gamble which worked out in her favor. I think one thing the show got right is that Cersei is going to dig her heels in and stay in that castle until the bitter end. Is Cersei capable of destroying the city?
Well, yes.
Of course she is. She crazy. But she also loves power, and power is in King's Landing. There's that part in book 4 where she says, I would rather rule from Lannisport than this wretched city, but even she knows that's not how it works. The capital is King's Landing. The Red Keep is in King's Landing. Obviously, she is more than capable of killing a bunch of innocent people, but I think for her to get to the point where she decides, I want to blow up this city, it's gonna be too late. That option will no longer be on the table because she never prepared to do that. Why did Aerys have the pyromancers make those caches of wildfire? Because Rhaegar had died and he realized Robert was going to win the war. So he decided, let Robert be the king of charred bones and cooked meat. Let Robert be king of the ashes. He was willing to die by suicide in order to kill his enemies. We know, or rather it's strongly hinted, that Cersei is not going to go out like that. The Valonqar prophecy, her little brother will be the one to end her life. I think when the Golden Company, led by Aegon Targaryen, marches down on King's Landing, Cersei will say, we can take them, we beat Stannis. But when everybody turns on her because she blew up the Pope and the Vatican, it's going to be too late for her to say, well, I want to blow up the city. Order me some wildfire from Sheen. Let's do it. No, Cersei, you're getting arrested again. You're going to jail. Harriet! Also, if she blows up the Great Sept and then she blows up the city, that's just repetitive. She can't keep blowing stuff up. It's like Palpatine with Force Lightning. You can't keep using Force Lightning to solve your problems. It might have worked once or twice, but now it's not working. Why does Palpatine keep using Force Lightning? Is he stupid? Well, yes. Jon Connington, I don't think it'll be him that does it because he doesn't know about the caches of wildfire. He has no affinity for wildfire like Cersei does. I think if he knew there were caches of wildfire under the city, he would not let Aegon Targaryen into the city. I can't imagine him letting him into the city knowing it could blow up at any moment. And what would be his motive? Why would he do it? I can see it being an option for Cersei because she still has enemies that want to take the city. JonCon, Young Griff, the Golden Company. But who is JonCon defending the city from? Daenerys? Is the idea that JonCon is going to do this because Aegon Young Griff was killed? I truly believe if JonCon realized he failed his Silver Prince yet again, it would break him. He would crawl into a corner and let the grayscale do its work. And I've seen it said the bells will drive him mad. The bells didn't even drive Dany mad on the show. It was the sight of the Red Keep, whatever that means. In the books, the bells don't make Jon Connington mad. They don't make him angry. They fill him with dread. The bells trigger him, and I don't use that word in the pejorative form. They actually trigger his PTSD. He's not the winter fucking soldier when he hears the bells. When he thinks about the bells, he starts quaking in his boots. His timbers are shivered. The bells signal doom for Jon Connington. I've seen it also theorized that the grayscale will drive him mad, but if the grayscale is to that point where it's affecting his mental stability, then he's going to be too far gone. He's not going to be in the right state of mind to formulate diabolical plans. So instead of Cersei, instead of Jon Connington, let's consider another option. What if no one destroys King's Landing? Martin has not confirmed if this was something he had in mind, and Dan and David, after the show was done, they disappeared. People wanted them to show up at Comic-Con and other conventions, but I don't blame them for not going. Why? I wouldn't go anywhere where I knew people were going to throw Rotten Tomatoes at me. This fandom had them like that girl from Euphoria, hiding in the bathtub.
Hurry the fuck up!
But anyway, the question I want to ask is, why does anyone have to destroy King's Landing? If the idea is that Dan and David fucked it up, they rushed the ending, they assassinated Dany's character, why are we pawning this idea off on other characters? It's not canon, so you can just get rid of it. You don't have to think about it at all. Because instead of saying, it's going to be Tyrion on the back of a dragon that does it, it's going to be Tyrion that convinces Dany to do it, or it's going to be an accident, it's going to be Jon Connington, it's going to be Jon Snow, it's going to be Cersei, it's going to be Moon Boy for all I know. Why does it have to happen at all? Could it be that even though the final seasons were written by Dan and David, and Martin was off writing The Winds of Winter,
More jokes.
could it be that people deep down know the final seasons have some truth in them? And this whole thing about it being JonCon or Cersei and not Daenerys is just people being in denial? I think so, because The Winds of Winter tells us,
and everywhere the dragons danced, the people died.
I wonder what that means. Nah, but really, if the idea that destroying King's Landing is objectively bad for Dany's story, why are we pawning it off to other people? Especially Jon Connington, who in the past avoided destroying a town full of innocent people because he didn't want the title of Butcher. And even though he's an older man now, more battle-hardened, there's nothing to suggest he's adopted a more Tywin Lannister outlook on life. And if you're still stuck on the idea that, well, he has grayscale, it'll drive him mad, Dany's a fucking Targaryen. The coin.
They say every time a Targaryen is born, the gods toss a coin, and the world holds its breath.
Sweet. Coins.
Well,
I think suggesting other characters might destroy King's Landing is worse than just dismissing the idea outright, because it keeps the idea alive. People that blame other characters and say, no, it's not Dany, they're admitting there's truth to the idea. It's just an inconvenient truth. They know deep down they can't dismiss the idea outright, so they have to do something else, and that is deflect. And you see this a lot when it comes to Daenerys and her most vocal supporters. There's a lot of denial and deflecting. For example, Mad Queen Daenerys is a theory as old as the series itself. But now that Jon Snow is set to be resurrected, you see a lot of theories that say Dany isn't going to be the one to have a dark turn. It'll be Jon, because his resurrection is going to change him. Well, if that's the case, Beric Dondarrion should have been the Jason Voorhees of the Riverlands. You know what Beric Dondarrion's dark turn was after he was resurrected? Depression. Depression and memory loss. Beric Dondarrion came back 50-11 times, and he's not a villain. He has magical dementia. And people say the same thing is going to happen to Jon Snow. Jon Snow inherited Rhaegar's sadness. He's going to be super sad now. But if there are 2 Targaryens left and we don't want one to go mad, we gotta pawn that idea off on somebody else, even though it doesn't make much sense. And when all else fails, if we can't say it's gonna be Cersei or JonCon or Jon Snow or Tyrion, let's just say it'll be an accident. She came to burn the city, but not like that. How could she have known? But here's the thing I don't think people realize when they say, oh, King's Landing will be an accident. If someone on a dragon decides to burn one building in the city and that causes 100 more to blow up, it's still their fault. That person is still responsible. I didn't know is not going to hold up in court. You absolutely cannot. My bad. War crimes. Are you serious? The deflection, the denial, it doesn't work because the Winds of Winter, it tells us.
And everywhere the dragons danced, the people died.
What could this mean? And I know someone's gonna be like, well, this clearly refers to Aegon. He's a Blackfire, he's a Bright Flame, he's a Panzer Dragoon, he's a dragon. He'll destroy King's Landing, not Daenerys. The quote from this little girl, the vision she has, says the dragons are coming. Aegon Targaryen is already in Westeros. The vision is of dragons coming to Westeros. That means Daenerys' arrival, her dragons, her 3. Yes, he is a dragon. He is the cloth dragon on poles swaying amidst a cheering crowd. Everybody and their mama is going to love him because after all these years of war, he's going to bring some semblance of peace and stability. He's Prince Rhaegar's son. Meanwhile, Dany is the Mad King's daughter. What's the difference? Public perception. And then Daenerys is going to be like, you stole my throne. And Aegon's going to be like, you have been in Essos for 20 years. What are you talking about? And they're going to fight, and Dany's going to realize, I have tried peace with my enemies before. What should I do now? Oh, right, dragons.
And everywhere the dragons danced, the people died.
Can someone tell me what this means? And I think the reason why people are attached to the idea that King's Landing will be destroyed is that it feels very much like a Martin thing to do. Because there are things that happened in the show, especially in the later seasons, that we know didn't come from the mind of George R.R. Martin. We know they were just Dan and David inventions. I would be shocked if anything from the Beyond the Wall episode happened to appear in the books. That whole episode, let's not even get into it. But the episode The Bells, despite feeling rushed, there's just something about it that's undeniably Martin. That's why what if no one destroys King's Landing is not really an option. And there's only one character with dragons, for now, that has their eyes on King's Landing. There's only one person who, last we saw them, was hallucinating, probably because she was shitting her brains out, and she was hearing things like, dragons plant no trees, remember your words, and she said, fire and blood. I wonder what it could all mean. I guess we're gonna have to wait for the books to find out. As for Dan and David, Dumber and Dumber, let's just dismiss everything about the show. We shouldn't try to figure out what they got right and what they got wrong. They're dumber and dumber. Their ideas are worthless. Forget them. What does this line from the first book say? And all that lived and breathed fled in terror from the shadow of her wings. And all that lived and breathed, not just the slavers, not just the bad people, but all the things? The shadow of her wings. Didn't someone call Drogon the winged shadow? And aren't shadows in this series associated with death? And what did that Dosh Khaleen lady say to Daenerys in the first book when she was talking about Rhaego and the stallion who mounts the world? She said, the bells in his hair will sing his coming, and the milkmen in their stone tents will fear his name. The old woman trembled and looked at Dany almost as if she were afraid. Clearly, this lady, when she mentioned the bells in his hair, she was talking about Jon Connington.
And everywhere the dragons danced, the people died.
What could this all mean? Look, I get it. The books haven't come out yet. None of this is canon. There's still room for plausible deniability. Let's not be like Ashara Dane and jump to conclusions. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And if you did, please do all the call to action stuff. Like the video, comment down below, subscribe, and ring that bell. Ring the bell? Uh-oh.
Even now, the evil seed of what you have done germinates within you.
Consider signing up on Patreon or becoming a channel member. Memberships go for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to the following Patreon supporters and channel members, including Philip E. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.